How often do you struggle to win games against a team from the lower league in the early rounds of the Carabao Cup? Well, there are many reasons why you struggle and sometimes even get taken to penalties. But the most important reason is you haven't done your homework. So in this game against Rotherham, we were going to do our homework. Let's go and kick some balls. Hello and welcome back to A Season with Aston Villa, Part 8. And in this Carabao Cup, we are going to do our homework. There are many reasons why you often struggle in the early rounds against teams from lower leagues. It could be that you are rotating the team so that you don't have players who are familiar playing with each other. It could be that you underestimate them. This is their cup final and they are going to play as well as they possibly can. They are going to defend for their lives and try and be clinical when they do get chances. And finally, if you don't do your homework, this is probably the main reason why sometimes you'll get taken all the way to penalties and sometimes you will even lose those penalties. It doesn't happen often, but it can happen. And you need to take these games just as seriously as any other Premier League game or European game that you will play. And so we are going to do our homework. We're going to find out about Rotherham and we're going to maximise our chances of getting a good result here. But before we go into that, if you are brand new to the channel, you know the drill. Do all that good stuff that you can see on the screen. And don't forget to give us a like, because this really helps the channel out and will help us to grow. And it will also inspire me to keep creating videos. So let's go straight in to how we're going to set up for Rotherham. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and take a look at Rotherham. And I'm going to click on their tactics screen and immediately my heart sinks. Why? Because this is probably the most difficult system to break down. They are going to sit back very deep. They're going to have 5 at the back. They're going to have this midfielder just in front of them. And they're going to have the other 2 midfielders dropping deep as well in front of them. It's going to make it very hard for us to find spaces when they are defending. When they break, they're going to be using these wing backs. These are very important to them. They are going to be pushing them high up the field, trying to supply the 2 forwards who are sitting there waiting. And they're going to be very patient in that waiting and try to be clinical when they do get chances. In defence, they're just going to sit back. When they break, they're going to attack at pace. There's not going to be a lot of pretty passing going on in midfield. They're just going to get it forward as fast as they possibly can. These 2 wing backs are going to be very important, trying to get behind my wing backs and trying to supply crosses for the onrushing forwards. It is very easy to see how they are going to play, and the problem that we are going to have, given we are a much superior team, is how do we break them down. So the next stop is to go to the team report. This scout report, however, doesn't really carry a lot of weight, because what this is doing is it's looking at the way they perform in their league and not the Premier League. And so in terms of whether they're good or bad at things, it doesn't matter in terms of this particular game. But there are a couple of things that we do know is that they create very poor chances from set pieces. And right at the top, I can see that they don't work very hard. If I now go to a better comparison of the 2 teams and I look at the defence, we are clearly better at them in defence, although jumping reach is something that they don't have in abundance. In midfield, we are much better squad than they are, and in attack, it is pretty clear to me as I go through these tabs, there's no excuse for us losing. We are a far superior team in terms of ability to Rotherham. So the next step is to go and have a look at the analyst report. This is quite interesting, this report, and if we go through this, against a 4-2-3-1, they do create a +2 in terms of clear-cut chances, and against a 4-3-3, they create a +4 of clear-cut chances, a chance every 36 minutes against and a chance every 27 minutes for. But again, this is how they are playing in their own league and not against better teams. I think against this kind of system, I've always felt that the best way in terms of the way that they line up is to just draw them out. You have a better chance of creating space if they are higher up the pitch rather than when they are back defending. And so I think we will struggle if we try to just press them high up the pitch. If we try to pass it around with fancy passing patterns, we're just not going to create the space for our forward players to score the goals. We're going to be playing the ball a lot in front of their defence and not getting behind very often. They are going to sit very deep. They're going to throw bodies in front of the ball. They are going to make life very difficult for us, and it will look like at times a man-to-man marking system at the back. But there's a couple of things we can look at just to check that I am on the right track. So if I have a look in the data hub at the next opponent, they are going to play with a direct counter-attack. In other words, they're going to sit deep, they're going to wait for their opportunities, and then they're going to launch their attack at speed. Try to get behind our wing-backs or through the middle and try to be clinical in front of goal. We can see what they are trying to do. One of the things that I will be concerned about is where they are going to press. And if I go and have a look at their pressing intensity, I can see that they have a low number of passes per defensive action and a low defensive line. So the low defensive line tells me they are going to sit deep. The low number of opposition passes per defensive action means that they are pressing very hard when you get into their final third. So it's pretty clear even from that they are going to sit back, be patient and wait for their opportunities. And in the next screen I can get that confirmed, because if I go to their defensive actions, I can see that most of their defensive actions are probably inside of their penalty area, and most of them are going to be in their final third. So they are going to be very aggressive once we get into their final third. And we can have as much possession as we like until we get there. But when we get there, they're going to put us under pressure. It's important that we get players forward, enough players forward in these areas to create situations where they are finding space. Breaking them down is going to be our hardest task. Then if I go back to Rotherham and I look at the Sky Bet stats, the League One stats that they are in, I can see that they're sitting in sixth. They're not doing brilliantly at this point, but they've only lost one game and they're doing pretty well. And if I click on the team detailed stats, I can pick up a lot of information from here. I'm not really interested in their attacking prowess. They're not going to be a great attacking team, but I can check on some things in terms of their attacking. Their expected goals, for example, per game is not very good, and they are sitting currently in 15th in the league, with an expected goal total of 9.4, as opposed to Birmingham, who have an XGP of 16.93. So they're not really going to create too many chances, but I do expect them to be quite clinical and to be very focused when they do get a chance. Looking at their cross completion, it's not brilliant, and again they are sitting in 13th. They have a 13% cross completion. That's not great, so I don't think that's something again that we need to worry too much in terms of their attacking threat. And defending is more what I'm actually looking at. And in terms of goals conceded, again, it's not that great. They are sitting in joint 14th, and they have conceded a lot of goals. They've conceded 10 goals in their opening 8 games. So it just tells me that they're not performing that well in their own league in terms of defending. Conceded from corners, they are doing very well. They've only conceded 1 goal from corners, but it's not really that I'm interested in. I'm looking at the tackles won, for example, the tackles won ratio. And in the tackles won ratio, you can see they're sitting in 23rd. They only win 74% of their tackles. What I want to know is where they are winning those tackles. And in terms of possession won in defence, if we look at that, they're performing really well. So they're doing very well in defence. But if we look at their possession lost when they are attacking, they are not doing so good. They have lost 924 tackles in their 8 games. So they're not doing extremely good when it comes to losing the ball up the pitch. They are winning the ball mostly, as we can see, in their defensive areas, but up front they don't win the ball very much at all. So what that tells me in terms of the way they are going to set up is that they are, as I suspected, going to sit back and just try and catch us on the break. And so the homework is done. I know how they're going to play, and I have a feeling that I can set up in a way that will help us to be as positive as we possibly can, but will keep us safe from the counter-attack. And therefore I'm going to set up in a 4-3-3, and the reason why I'm going to do that is that I am going to sit back. I'm going to sit back into a mid-block. I'm going to attempt to give them this space to draw them out towards me and then counter-attack and try to find spaces in behind. And so to do that, we have this midfield 3 that are going to sit very high up the pitch, because I'm going to play with a higher line. That will push my midfield higher up into the pitch. I am taking a risk playing with a higher line, with the wing-backs operating out wide, but I trust my defence to be able to do a pretty good job forcing them back. So we are going to play with a high line, but we're just going to sit back and draw them out a little bit to try and create the space that we need. We've got players who are going to sit high up. We've got 3 players who are quite good players who are hopefully able then to find the space that they're going to leave when they come out at us. We're not going to be going gung-ho. We're not going to be going attacking, throwing everybody forward. We're going to be patient, and we are therefore going to play shorter passing. We're going to play the ball out of defence, so we're going to pass it around here because they're not going to press high up the pitch. And we're going to move it forward slowly into positions where we can release the forward players. We are going to play with a higher tempo. The higher tempo means that we are vulnerable to making mistakes, but it also means that we're not holding on to the ball too much in the final third and allowing them to do this man-to-man type marking at the back. And so by moving the ball quickly, hopefully our players who are better off the ball can find space, get into good scoring positions and score the goals that we need. And that's pretty much it. We are not going to counter-press. I think that would be a mistake to push high up the pitch and counter-press them. I think it would be a mistake. They will just sit there and we'll find it harder and harder to break down the opposition. And so that's the way we're going to set up. And hopefully, and we can only hope, that this is the right way to go about it. It is a rotated team. It's a very rotated team, and we have players like Mayoral who are playing their first game. Barkley and Ramsey are strangers to the midfield, and we have players coming back from injury at the back. But we do have a strong pairing at central defence in front of our goalkeeper, who is our reserve goalkeeper for this game. It's a rotated team, and this is one of the reasons why sometimes people don't get the result that they achieve. But I think it's a good enough team. I think we've set up in a way that will help us to win. So let's go and find out what happened. And so we had another victory and another clean sheet, and we had beaten them by 3-0. The match stats are very much in our favour. It looks like we dominated the game, but we did have those problems of breaking them down. They did sit in front of the goalkeeper with a lot of players there, and we couldn't break them down. The fact that we scored 3 goals from set pieces is testament to that. They defended well, and we did eventually get the result, but I wasn't very impressed by the quality of our finishing. 23 shots and only 10 on target. I think a win is a win, but it just does go to show that it was very difficult to break them down. We had rotated the team. We had players playing in unfamiliar roles, and so that didn't help the cause. I don't mind. We had beaten them fairly comfortably in the end. The fact that we scored from 3 set pieces does not bother me in the slightest. Pau Torres, who is a first-team regular, had an absolutely superb game. It's a game we should have won. It is a game that we did win, and we beat them by 3-0, and our unbeaten run continues. And so that's it for this video, and I'm going to continue doing my homework for each game that we have, especially for Liverpool, who we are about to play in our next fixture. And don't forget to do all that good stuff that you can see on the screen, because it does help the channel a great deal, and it does inspire me to keep creating new videos. And all that remains to be said now is stay safe, take care, and we'll see you for the big game against Liverpool.